Have you ever just felt stuck? There's that one thing you absolutely need to do, something really important, but for some reason, you just can't make yourself start. We've all been there. So today, we're going to dig into that feeling by asking one simple question.
Now, hold on. This isn't about judging yourself. This is about getting genuinely curious. Just for a second, think about that thing on your to-do list, the one you keep skipping over. Why? Let's dive into what's really going on here, because I've got a feeling the answer has nothing to do with being lazy.
We all have one, right? Let's just call it the thing. And it's usually not something small, is it? It's that difficult email that needs a perfect reply. It's that conversation you've been dreading, or that huge decision that's just been looming over your head for weeks. That's the thing. And here's what's so interesting. The thing almost never shows up alone. It's like it brings its own baggage, packed with all these uncomfortable feelings. You've got the fear of totally messing it up, or this intense pressure to make it absolutely perfect. And sometimes it's just this quiet, nagging feeling of not knowing how it's all going to turn out.
So, when we feel that discomfort, what's the first story we usually tell ourselves? Yeah, it's often something simple, a single powerful label. And then comes the next layer of self-talk. This one adds a nice little dose of obligation and failure into the mix. It kind of implies there's this simple on switch we should be able to flip, and the fact that we can't, well, it means we're failing. The pressure just keeps building. And finally, we land here. This is the question that takes a simple act of avoidance and turns it into a full-blown judgment on our entire character. Suddenly, we're not just putting something off anymore. We've decided we are fundamentally flawed. But what if that entire story is just wrong? Okay, so let's reframe this completely. What if avoidance isn't a character flaw? Not at all. What if it's actually a protective mechanism? The real key here is to see avoidance for what it is, your brain's natural, hardwired instinct to keep you safe from a feeling it thinks is a threat. It's a function, not a failure. So here's the crucial shift. We can literally trade our old interpretations for new, much more helpful insights. Instead of seeing laziness, we can choose to see an attempt at protection. Instead of seeing a character flaw, we see a normal brain function. And instead of a personal failure, we start to see that this feeling is actually giving us some really valuable information. And here's exactly why it becomes such a powerful habit. It's a super simple loop. First, you step away from that uncomfortable task. Instantly, your brain gets this little hit of relief. Ah, the bad feeling is gone. And that relief teaches your brain a very clear lesson. Hey, avoidance works, at least, for getting rid of that bad feeling right now.
This is exactly why telling yourself to just power through it almost never works in the long run. You're basically picking a fight with a deeply learned protective instinct in your own brain. So, the goal isn't to declare war on yourself and try to force your way through the resistance. The real work is actually something much quieter. And this is where everything changes. Instead of judgment, we're going to bring in curiosity. We can just pause, notice that feeling of wanting to avoid something, and then ask a totally different kind of question. A gentle, open-ended question that's trying to understand, not to condemn. And when you ask that question, you might find some really interesting answers. Maybe that feeling of avoidance is just your brain's way of telling you that the task is way too big and you need to break it down. Or maybe it's a sign that the pressure you're putting on yourself is just unsustainable. Or, hey, maybe you're just plain exhausted. Or maybe there's a deeper fear there that you haven't really looked at yet. So the most important point is this. Avoidance isn't the enemy. It's not something to be crushed or defeated. It's a messenger. It is a signal from your brain trying to tell you something really important about the task or your situation or even just how you're doing inside. It is valuable information. And that's really the heart of it, listening to that information. That's often the very first real step forward. Before we can ever change our behavior, we have to try and understand it first, without all the judgment. Because true, lasting change, it doesn't come from force. It comes from understanding.